Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining our webinar on BAASS Cloud, presented by BAASS Business Solution in partnership with Lenaco. My name is Pradeep Kushwaha and I am the part of marketing team at BAASS. I would like to cover a few housekeeping rules before the webinar begins. All attendees will be muted during the duration of webinar. If you have a question, please type into our chat or question box. We will answer the question at the appropriate time. Please ensure your headphones are plugged in and the volume is turned up on your computer. If you are having any technical questions or issues, please write into our chat box. We will do our best to assist. Now I would like to introduce Jamie Smith.
Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on your time zone. My name is Jamie Smith. I am the president of Lenaco Computer Networks, Inc. We are the IT division for the BAASS group of companies. And it is our division and our infrastructure division that supports the BAASS Cloud platform that our hosted Sage 300 is on. And it's for this reason that I am asked to present to you here today. This conversation will be focused on the hosting platform itself, how it works, connectivity, etc. It's not going to be a conversation on Sage 300 at all. It's assumed that if you're here, you already have Sage 300, software licensing, etc., or you're interested in purchasing it and are looking at options for where to put it. So I'm going to try to take about 15 minutes here to provide an overview and to answer some of the most common questions that we get about this when I'm asked to talk to companies about hosting of Sage 300. And at the end, if there are any questions that you've got, put into the chat, I will answer those as well. So to that point on the questions, if you're using the GoToWebinar app, there is an area. If you're in the web app, there's also a question mark in a box that you can submit questions. I would ask that you put them in there. During the webinar itself or during my presentation, I will not be answering the questions. I'm going to wait till the very end to see if there's any from there that any questions to answer at that point. But of course, if we've missed anything or if you remember something or something else comes up post any of this and you would like to have information, please, you can email me jsmith@lenetco.ca or jsmith@baass.com. I get both of those. You can contact your BAASS account manager with these questions and they'll get them over to the correct party to answer them, or just email sales@baass.com. Any one of these and we should be able to get you directed to the right person. So today we're here just to talk about why hosted Sage 300 and why with BAASS. Specifically here on the Sage 300, what we're really talking about is taking your Sage 300 software and licenses and installing them on our platform as a service. There really isn't a true Sage 300 SaaS web-based model at all at this point. So anything that's going to be done with Sage 300 right now is going to be installing your apps, licenses, and data into Windows servers and delivering it to you. We're just talking here now about how we do that and deliver that turnkey to you at that point. We often see organizations asking these questions. They want to know, how do they go domainless? How do they get rid of the servers on-prem? How do they not have to have net new servers on-prem in order to install Sage 300? And then if they're doing that, what's the back end of it? What are the resources? What is the business continuity, et cetera, that's applied for it? So the most common times that we have these conversations are at the point where people are doing an upgrade on their Sage 300 software. So you have Sage 300, you've got everything installed, and you're planning an upgrade, and now you have to have that question answered of, okay, if we're doing this on-prem, where do we install this new version? Do we do it in place? Are we creating net new servers? What are the logistics? What is the licensing? What is the backup and business continuity that we need for it? So when they start organizations get into that question, they're like, hey, is there a possibility that we just turnkey this and have this hosted? That's scenario number one. Scenario number two is when there are changes in infrastructure. Organizations are doing end of life and hardware replacement, server replacement, Windows operating system refreshes. When they need to do that, that's another time. If they have Sage 300 installed, they're going, if I've got to do all of that and take all of this into account for it, can I just move it and have it hosted somewhere? The third scenario that we have these conversations, third most likely scenario and most often scenario that I would have the conversation is at times when companies are purchasing and implementing Sage 300 net new, and rather than implementing new servers, an installation on-prem, backup, business continuity, et cetera, they go, again, can we just have this all hosted? So those are the three most common times or most common triggers to have this type of a conversation with, hosting of Sage 300. And all three of those scenarios, you notice that all three of them are really at the time where you're implementing net new servers in order to implement a Sage 300 something, be it an upgrade or a net new install. So if you're going to do this, why would you use a company like BAASS to host your Sage 300? I'll start here with that our platform far exceeds the publisher's recommendations and is optimized based on BAASS's knowledge of Sage 300. So this was their 35th anniversary this year. In the Sage, we're 35th anniversary as a company in the Sage world. We're North America's largest Sage 300 VAR partner. I think it's over 5,000 customers, 150 plus employees. I mean, this is all dedicated to the Sage 300 vertical and world. We've got a wealth of and depth of knowledge on how this is supposed to be implemented. So we take everything from the BAASS technical support team's standardization and build books. And when they say in our dream scenario, this is what we would like to have, that's what we put into our platform so that we're optimizing this specifically for Sage 300 hosting. And specifically according to what the requirements are that our implementation groups have said, hey, this is how we would love to have it, and this is what would make it best in class of implementation. By doing that sort of a thing, at the same time, our group being our technology group, being part of the BAASS group of companies, we're in the same offices, their service manager has access to our service manager, our technical team. While our technical team does not implement the Sage 300, our technical team does have direct access to, and their technical team does have direct access to our teams. So during the implementation, we can turnkey this on the back end of it. There really is, you just hand it to our team. You've got the projects in the BAASS team to implement. You've got us implementing the back end and the servers, and we're delivering a turnkey type of solution. We're providing the servers, the backup. We're providing the business continuity. We'll provide the support for your end users for connectivity. And all of this implementation is taken care of on the back end between our own two technical teams. All you have to provide at that point is just the internet and the PC to be able to connect. And on top of that, it's scalable. So these are built, this platform itself, if today you've got 5 users or 10 users, you want to add 1 or 2, absolutely. You can turn them on and add mid-month. If you need to remove a user mid-month, we have the ability to reduce as well. We take care of the licensing for it on the Microsoft side, operating system, and SQL. And if you have any third-party products that you want to add in as well, whether it's you've got them at the time of implementation, we can install third-party products, or you want to add third-party products in the future, we absolutely have a large library of those that we can implement and install in our platform as well. And the other item we see is people want the security. They want to know, well, somebody is taking care of this. So our organization itself, we follow CAN-COSC 104, CC 104 as the standards for security for as an organization. But then beyond ourselves, organizations that are hosting us, they want to know, well, we are taking care of the automation of patch management, vulnerability management. We install security detection tools, MDR, something that's 24/7 monitored. So in the event of an event, that there is somebody and something looking for it all the time. We implement our server lockdown best practices and policies for RDS. Your end users can't really do anything. They can't install software, et cetera, on the server. Their ability is limited to log in, open Sage, work. And we implement multi-factor authentication access for it as well. So MFA is included in the remote access. And we provide secure access. We use Parallels similar to Citrix as the secure gateway for end users to be able to connect in. And last but not least, future-proofing it for upgrades. When it comes time to do an upgrade, we have the infrastructure already in place and ready to perform that upgrade. So When you're doing your upgrade, we implement another set of servers that your applications and data are copied to, and the upgrades are performed there. User acceptance training, UAT, is done on those. And when it comes to the point that you're ready to go live, we just flip the switch and users don't notice any change. They go from logging into the current server into the new upgraded version server, making it as easy as possible. If we get into it and how does it work, from an end user standpoint, we want this to be as easy as possible. We have a web-based application for access. We also have a client that can be installed on the desktop itself. Here's an example of the web-based application. You would go to, here's an example of the URL itself. It would navigate to it in a browser. You would go to yourcompany.baass.com. In this instance, if it was lenetco.baass.com, all of your users would have individualized usernames and passwords. They would enter that in, use the username and password. That would then prompt for MFA. So multi-factor authentication at this point in technology, I don't think this is a new concept for anybody. They would use MFA off of their smartphone. We use Google Auth. So you put in your username and your password, you get your MFA off of your Google Auth, and you put that in, and you're able to then log into the remote desktop server. In the event we're asked this, hey, what happens if we don't have smartphones accessible to our employees? We do have a key fob that could be added onto this as well. And that is a key fob dedicated to that individual. If they put in their username, their password, and get the 6-digit rotating code off of the key fob. Once they've gotten that far, they put in their username and password. They've put in their multi-factor authentication 6-digit code. They are then at the screen where we've got published out apps. This is a screenshot of a web page. In this web page itself, we're publishing out just a remote desktop application. Once they're authenticated, they see this, they double click on that, and then they get into a remote desktop session. This should be nothing strange, new for anybody here. Your application is published in a desktop. Within it, you have Sage. From here, on this desktop, they are locked down, the end users. They can't install anything and can't navigate through the server or the desktop instance. But what they can do is open up Sage, and within Sage and from here, they have access to the applications which you have then assigned to them within Sage. So if you've got, core financials, GLAPAR, and somebody has access to just AP or just AR, subledgers, when they log in, they will only see that, just as they normally would within your own Sage install that's probably currently in your own office. We do the same thing. So from here, it's no different. They're given access to the ledgers that they're allowed to be able to see within Sage, and that is it. So their credentials for Sage determine what it is that they're actually able to do within the product itself. I will get into now a section of common questions that I am asked. Okay, so I'm asked to have conversations with organizations. Hey, we're thinking about, we'd like to investigate hosting of Sage 300. What does it actually take, and what is the model that has the Sage 300 hosting from BAASS? In this model here, a couple of common questions. As soon as I get into these meetings, it's usually, hey, what size of deployment is right for this? What is a typical installation and implementation size? I'll say there's really nothing's typical. I'll say what there are the majority though. So we have customers, everything from 1 up to 100 in size that are doing this. The vast majority are in the 3 to 8 size. The largest that we have is, I think, 91 or 92 currently. That is the largest size that we have right at this moment. But again, we've got many in the 30s, many in the 50s, many in the 60s, but the vast majority of these are in the 3 to 8 user size. We're asked, hey, if we're connecting from the office, but can we connect from home? Absolutely, your end users can connect from home. What we normally do is we IP whitelist your office so that anybody can connect from there, put in your username, your password, and they still need MFA to be able to log in. And this is all allowed. But To get from home, we put an additional barrier. Nobody can even get to the login page to put in the username and password of the MFA unless they're at your office. Or if they're at home, we provide a web page login that they can log in from there. They do that at the beginning of the day, and for the next 12 hours, they're able to connect in using their regular connection method of username, password, and MFA. So yes, you can work from home and connect from there. And that's the portion of having that security that nobody outside of your organization, outside of your office can get in. And if you are outside of your organization, and if you've given them the web page to log in, then they're able to connect to be able to connect. There's an additional step there. We're asked a lot, what about third-party products? I've got PrintBoss, I've got Orchid EFT, I've got, MyCease, I've got something. Absolutely, yes. So we've got a large library of applications that we've already got successful implementations and installations for and are hosted. So you bring it to the table. What is it that you've got? We've either already done it, or we can definitely investigate and see what it would take to do it. But at this point in time, there are lots of them done already. So absolutely, third-party hosting is a third-party application add-ons is quite normal in this environment. I'm asked about printing as well. Am I able to print checks, etc.? Absolutely. So we map in the printers, we map the printers to your office if you got a specific check printer, etc. Normally, all other printers will just automatically map to the session and server. And can I print from any printers in my home or at my office? Yeah, again, this is all just basic printer redirection with universal drivers, everything, business class printers, they all pretty much just map. And if in the very rare instance where there is an issue, mapping a printer, you reach out to us, the Lineco team and our technical team, and we will troubleshoot with your end user to get that printer mapped. And then, of course, there's the obvious question, I gotta say, what do I, the organization, and what do I, the customer, need to be able to bring to the table for this? I'll reference it back, there's not much to it. You bring your Sage 300 licensing. We install, our BAASS, the technical team, installs the applications, and bring your data. Beyond that, you've got to have an internet connection to be able to connect. That's obvious. This is a hosted platform, so you must have internet to be able to connect. It's very skinny as well. It does not require much internet at all. And you need a device for MFA. As I said, smartphones for multi-factor authentication. And if you don't, we can provide a fob. The only other item there is that, so the requirement on the Windows side of it is going to be Windows 8.1 or higher desktop operating system version, and you got to be installing patches. And the reason for that is this. We are implementing and installing the Microsoft security updates and every week. And at times, there are items that are deprecated by Microsoft that are no longer in use. And if that happens, if your PC on your end isn't patched, it may be trying to connect using something old, some old type of protocol, etc. So your machines must be, you got to have in Windows updates installed on them. Again, you should be doing that as normal, but if you're not, that would be the one item here would say, hey, the only thing you need to do is make sure that your devices are patched. We also can support, we have customers doing this with Chromebooks and Mac as well, connecting. For the Windows 8, that's by far the most normal, and you should be patching them. I get a question as well about bringing local file shares from the on-prem accounting file shares into the hosted environment, and absolutely you can. That's very common. So what we would be doing is, compartmentalizing the accounting department and saying, hey, your shares, if you want to put them into this RDS environment, absolutely we can do. We just work with you on, hey, what's the folder structure you want? What are the security privileges you want? And what are the groups that you want for those privileges? And then when you add a user, you submit, hey, add Jim Smith. And Jim Smith gets permissions to these folders, boom. And then they're able to it, and you can put your file shares in there. And then the other item is here, the common questions that we would get from end users, not as an organization, but end users, what do they normally ask? There's really two common, high-level questions that they ask is, number one, when I log in every time, do I really have to put in the MFA? And the answer to that is yes. I mean, it is security at the cost of convenience. If they're not used to it as of yet because they haven't been doing it on-prem, they're like, suddenly you're introducing, well, when you log into your Sage 300, not only do you have to put your username and your password to get into the system, but you got to put an MFA. Really? Yes, really. So you'll then be able to check off that box yourself when you say, hey, does this line of business application have MFA enforced on it? Yes, it does. And every time they log in, they have to put in the MFA. And the other one is, can I copy and paste files from my local machine to the server or from the server to my local machine? Yes, you can. We have that turned on and set on by default. And the only time that we disable that is if at the request of the organization, where they say that they don't want that to happen. Okay. From there, I'll pass on from organizational type questions. I'm going to go to questions that are commonly asked by the IT departments that I'm asked to have conversations with. Okay. One of the first, it's always, it's backups and security. So I'll start with security of the connection. What is it that we are doing to secure the connection of the end users? I've just gone through here a whole bunch of stuff on the multi-factor authentication. That's really just end user credential securing. But we, for securing of the access gateway, we use Parallels. It's from Corel. It's very similar to Citrix. We use their web gateway and SSL and 443 connection to it for the communication. There is no VPN. We IP whitelist the office. So people that are within the office, there's a static IP there. They're able to get to the gateway to be able to log in and put in their username, credentials, and MFA. If they're not in the office, they can't do it. If they're outside of the office, we provide another firewall gateway that they have to authenticate against that even before they can get to it. So just to secure the connection, we have those multiple layers. And insofar as backups go, commonly they would ask it again. We have a document on this if anybody who actually wants it, or technical teams, they generally speaking want to see it in writing. It's 4 backups a day, retained for 30 days, all the dailies. There is a 4th backup day set to separate hardware. That separate hardware retains it, the dailies and the weeklies, and the monthlies are sent offsite as well. After the first month, it is the 2 more months of weeklies, and then the monthlies are retained for 12 months, and those are retained offsite. On offsite, there are 2 different data locations that we store it in of the offsite. The onsite and the first offsite are really for restores if it was really required. The last point of offsite is something that sets apart a little bit here, I believe, what we do, and that is a immutable, encrypted, secure offsite backup that we do not have access to. So in the event that there is an issue, a breach, whatever it is, and it's on our end, we want to make sure that we have a copy of the data that we don't have access to, that is offsited, as the last layer resort to be able to get everything back from. And another one we're asked here is resource sharing. Are the servers resource shared? Are this backend SQL shared? No, nothing is shared. Every customer has their own VLAN. Every customer has their own set of servers. Every customer, there is no integration to a higher authority for shared identity management or anything like that. These are all separated and segregated by customer. So they're all unique, and there's no cross-reference between any customer from one to another in any way, shape, or form. We're asked about, hey, what security software do we use or things? So we, not only are we locking down the servers, but we put in managed detection and response software and EDR software onto every server, and have that, the EDR software, managed and monitored 24/7 by third-party North American SOC. The reason for that is, if something's going to happen, it probably is going to happen at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we want to make sure that somebody is watching that and has orders and actionable checklist in the event of something, that they're going to quarantine and take that server offline immediately. And then we're asked, hey, what about your own Lineco access into our systems and your password access into our systems, et cetera? What is it and how do you use it that you manage your own team for that? So the Lineco access into any customer tenant or system, everything we have is multi-factor authenticated as well, so MFA'd as well. So the passwords that we have for admin access on servers, those admin passwords on your servers rotate daily, every 24 hours. They change every 24 hours. The passwords are saved in a password vault management tool that, in order for our team to log into, we have to have unique usernames, passwords, and MFA to get into. And then we can log and see what employee has looked at, seen, or copied any password for any customer. But again, all of it rotates every day. So anything today is not any good tomorrow. And of course, I mean, to further that on our own systems ourselves, we do MFA every machine and require MFA for all administrative or elevated privilege access. So as an example, the typical day for an employee here for Lineco that would potentially be managing a system that you would have with us, just for them to turn on their machine, username, password, and MFA to get into it. Then to get into our software tools, it's username, password, and MFA to get into it. Then to get into the password vault management tool to see and get access to customers, username, password, and MFA. You know, we're adding multiple layers there of security to try to make sure that we can do this as secure as possible. And so I'll stop there. I've gone a little over the 15 minutes. I apologize. I'm going to try to get to some questions that any might have been posed out. If you'll forgive me, I'm going to go over to the chat window here and see if anything was brought in. Yes, I've got 3 questions here. Currently, we have it on-prem and we have shared folder that users can access on their devices. Can these files transferred? Yes, I apologize. That was asked before I put my question in, or answer to that. Yes, you absolutely can bring file shares from your the admin group or finance group that also use your Sage 300 into our platform. The additional, could you please again explain again the additional step when working from home? Not a problem. So from home, so from the office, it's whitelist IP, not a problem. From home, everybody has their normal username and password and everything you have to go to. They have to go to, so example here, I go to something like, I turn on my computer in the morning, I use my username and password, get into it, my MFA to get my computer. Now I want to start getting into my Sage 300 for our own, because we use the same thing. For me to get to that, because I'm at home, I have to go to like secure.baass.com and put in a firewall username and password that now allows my remote desktop traffic to be able to go through. It'll only work for the next 12 hours from the IP that I just connected from. And that's how we do it. So we don't want anybody to be able to connect into any of these servers that we host, or even be able to see that they're there unless they're coming from an authorized computer or IP. So even if they are authorized, they still have to have usernames and passwords to get in and MFA. But if they don't have it, they can't even see it. You can't scan it. You can't find it at all. So it's a firewall auth web page that you put your username and a separate username and password in, minimize it, and for the next 12 hours you can connect. Question number 3, is there a disk size limit for the database? We need to keep records for 10 plus years, etc. No, there is no disk size limit. We just continue to add in disk as much as you need. So if you have by far the most common here are going to be in the 5 to 20 gig database sizes. That's by far the most common, but it's not unusual. The largest one I think we have here is 120. And that's getting large, very large, my friends. So yes, we just, hey, great, it started at this. This is where it gets into scalable. You add. Yes, we can continue to add disk and storage. Question number 4, can it be integrated with our Azure tenant so the users log in with the username and password specific there? That's single sign-on and no. So the short answer to that is yes, it could be. The long answer is no, we don't. And the reason for that is a separation of credentials. So in the event that there's a breach at one location, the pass-through can't happen to another. So unfortunately, here we go, no, we don't. And that is a security reason and item, nothing more, that we just don't do SSO for that. Number 5, what is involved to get into the under cloud computing? I assume what that means is, hey, what does it take to actually do this? Not much. It's just like doing a Sage upgrade. You sign off on there's a hosted platform, we create the hosted platform, the BAASS technical group installs your version of Sage and your licensing, they copy over your data and forms and customization or third-party products, they do their upgrade and confirm everything's working for you and all this is while you continue to work on-prem. And then when you're done, when you're ready to go live, you just stop using the on-prem, copy the data one last time, do a reconversion, and boom, users now use it and host it. That's it. And number 6, can you discuss pricing if possible? If not, where can this information? Absolutely. So you can go to the BAASS account managers. You can email me direct. You can email sales@baass.com. But I will want to be transparency here, like full transparency, and make this as easy as possible. So a baseline here for something like this, you're talking about $600 a server and then about $95 a user. That's where it starts. So from there, and that generally typically flows up to anywhere about 8, 9, 10 users. It's not until you start getting larger or there's something out of the norm that it starts getting larger than that. But of course, that's really where we get into how many modules, how many users, how large a database size, what are the files that you want to bring over from your operations, meaning like Excel, Word, PDF, and things like that. That sort of a thing will help dictate. But the numbers I just gave are pretty rule of thumb, finger in the air, catching the wind. They're pretty accurate on that side of it, okay? All right, well, that is it. 6 questions. I really appreciate everyone's time. I'm sorry it's 1:30 and I've gone just to the end. Does it start? One last question. Does it start RDP from the website? Yes, it does. So from that website, you click on it. It's not really RDP. It's Parallels that triggers everything. But yes, that's what runs the RDP session app. All right. And sorry, one last. Is there not-for-profit pricing or discounts? Guess message. Something can be done. Okay. Thank you very much. With that, I appreciate everybody's time. It's overtime here. I will transfer this back to Pradeep. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And one last thing, I apologize. If anybody's looking for a quote, etc., you can email me. You can contact your account manager, or you can email sales@baass.com. Pradeep, I will pass it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for attending BAASS webinar on BAASS Cloud. All attendees will receive a copy of webinar recording in a follow-up email. If anyone would like a quote for hosted Sage 300, they can email contact their BAASS account manager or Jimmy, jsmith@lenaco.ca directly with the subject line request for BAASS Cloud quote. To help us improve our future webinar, we kindly ask all attendees to participate in our webinar survey attached in the webinar recording email. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you very much.